Well, for those who don't know me, my name is Marta. I'm a technical scientific translator and also an English teacher. Today in this conference we are going to talk about two main topics. On one hand, we are going to talk about La Plata and why we consider it a thriving capital. And on the other hand, we are going to talk about Pasaje Dardo Rocha. So, let's start. La Plata is the provincial capital of Buenos Aires and it is located in the northeast of Buenos Aires. It also occupies an area of 893 kilometers. The metropolitan area of La Plata includes several towns, as we can see there in the map. We can see, for example, Tolosa, Ringuelet, Villa Lisa, Los Hornos, etc. All these towns have community centers that work as local delegations. La Plata was planned to serve as a provincial capital after Buenos Aires was federalized in 1980, and it was officially founded by Governor Dardo Rocha on 19th November 1882. Between 1952 and 1955, it was also known as Seba Perón City, and then Rocha decided to erect a new city to host the government buildings and the Plan University. Pedro Benoit was the urban planner of the city, and that is why the city has a square shape with a central park and two main diagonals that goes from north to south and east to west. In addition, every 6 blocks we can find a small park and all the streets are numbered in sequence. La Plata is also known as the city of diagonals or the city of linden trees. And it is believed that the city design is full of Freemason symbolism since both Rocha and Benoit were Freemasons. Many of the public buildings in La Plata were chosen by an architectural contest. That is why, for example, the Governor Palace was designed by Italians and the City Hall by Germans. In 1884, the street lighting were installed, and it was the first of its kind in all Latin America. And finally, another important building to mention is the Metropolitan Cathedral of La Plata, Inmaculada Concepción, which is the biggest church in Argentina. Another building that we can mention is Teatro Argentino, which is the second most important opera house in Argentina after Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires. Casa Curuchet is one of the two buildings done by Le Corbusier in all America. And finally, the University of La Plata, it is well known for its observatory and the Natural Science Museum, and it was officially founded in 1897. We have here in La Plata many tourist sites to visit, and some of them are located in the center of the city, between streets 51 and 53 in Plaza Moreno, the main center. On one side of the square, we can see the Metropolitan Cathedral, and on the other side, we can see the City Hall. Another important places to mention are, for example, Estadio Único de La Plata, the Natural Science Museum, Centro Cultural Islas Malvinas, Centro Cultural Meridiano Quinto, Anfiteatro Martín Fierro, which is in El Bosque, and also Centro Cultural Pasaje Dardo Rocha. But while staying in La Plata, we can also visit the neighboring cities of Berisso and Ensenada, which were formerly part of La Plata. In these places, we can visit, for example, the Ukrainian parish, Nuestra Señora de la Asunción, and Fort Barragán. So, to conclude this short introduction, I would like to mention some interesting facts about the city and the whole Argentina. For example, the 10th December 1945, Eva Duarte and Juan Domingo Perón got married here in La Plata, in the parish San Francisco de Asís. Also, Enrique Mosconi was the founder of YPF, which is the 10th largest company in the world. El Día, as you may also know, is the most prominent and important newspaper of the city. And finally, I believe it is the most important, In 1988, the UNESCO approved the city's bid to become a World Heritage. But the request is still pending due to many objections regarding the maintenance of the buildings and the landscape over recent decades. So, to continue, I would like to go my partner.
For giving me the chance to be here this evening. My name is Milton. I was born in Uruguay and, well, I'm an immigrant. I've been here for the past year. As you all know, I'm going to talk about the city of La Plata, you know, part of its history, just a brief part of its history, and two of its most important buildings, the cathedral and the Museum of Natural Sciences. La Plata, as we all know, with more than 740,000 inhabitants, is the capital city of the province of Buenos Aires. From the very beginning, this city was planned and developed to serve as the capital of the province since Buenos Aires was federalized in 1880. So, unlike a lot of other cities in the world, especially in Europe, this one was designed before its foundation. Now, why do I mention that it was designed before its foundation? Well, because in the past, you know, cities were not designed the same way, or some of them were not even designed. So you had a main square with streets, narrow streets, surrounding that square in circles, and that was chaotic, dirty, prone to all types of diseases and plagues. Fortunately, at the end of the 19th century, a new concept of urbanism took over. You know, that was called modern urbanism. So the design was completely different. People learned that cities needed to be clean, with open spaces, with green areas, with wider streets and avenues. That was really important. By doing that, by building those types of cities, a lot of diseases could be avoided, right? And as a result of that, cities will become cleaner and healthier, right? This is the thing. Governor Dardo Rocha proposed the creation of a new capital city as a province, to be the capital of the province of Buenos Aires, right? That proposal was almost immediately approved by Congress. So what did he do? He commissioned Pedro Benoit to plan the future city. This project was a very important one for both men. Actually, I think it was the most ambitious project for both men. That man there, José Hernández, you know, the author of this epic Martín Fierro, is supposed to, well, have come up with a name for the city, La Plata. He suggested that name because of El Virreinato del Río de la Plata and because the future city was going to be not so far away from the river, de la Plata, Río de la Plata. So, finally the foundation stone was placed and the city of La Plata was officially founded by Governor Dardo Rocha on November 19th, 1882. The city is not so far away as we can see from Buenos Aires. If we take the freeway, Buenos Aires-La Plata, we can get there in 40 or 45 minutes, which is not that much. And we have a lot of towns. There are a lot of towns in La Plata, big towns and important. Most of them, Ensenada, Berisso, Los Hornos, Olmos, etc. The thing about these towns is that they all have their local community centers and their local delegations. And, you know, in fact, those are the things that make cities big, right? The climate in this region is mild, with an average temperature of 17 degrees Celsius, with abundant humidity, like today, for example, and that is because of the proximity that we have to this river, right? Urban planner Pedro Benoit designed the layout of the city based on the modern concepts of urbanism at that time in Europe, right? The idea that they had in Europe. So we have a city with the shape of a square, with a main square in the middle of it, and two main diagonal avenues. One that goes from north to south, the other from east to west. In addition, there are other shorter diagonals, and that is the reason why this city is known as the city of the diagonals, la ciudad de las diagonales. And it has another nickname, which is Ciudad de los Kilos, because of the linden trees lining the streets and the squares, right? Other than the diagonals, the rest of the streets are numbered consecutively, and they are on rectangular grids. The fact that they are numbered consecutively makes it much easier for tourists not to get lost. But let me be honest with you, people, I've been here for a year and 2 months, for instance, and I still get lost if I don't pay attention. It's really difficult. I don't know if you knew about this. I didn't, of course. This city was called Eva Perón in 1952 after she passed away, after she died. But that was only for 3 years when General Perón was deposed of power by a military coup. You know, at that time, in 1955, the city was given back its original name, La Plata. But, well, I found this really interesting. What about immigration? I am an immigrant myself, so actually we have been influenced by immigration from the north to the south of the American continent, right? And this city, the city of La Plata, is no exception. People here are mostly descended from Spaniards and Italians, but there are also groups of Germans, Jewish, Polish, Peruvians, Paraguayans, Bolivians, Arabic. So we have a lot of people coming from other countries. The National University of La Plata. Okay, we host one of the most important universities in Argentina, and one of the most important things, it is free. This is really a good thing, right? This university, gathers students from all over Argentina. Some of them, when they get their degrees, they decide to settle down here. And that is the reason why this city has been growing so fast, right, the past decades. Here we have only some numbers. That we have, for example, over 110 regular students, around 10,000 teaching staff, 17 faculties, 148 university degrees, all right? Those are just numbers. We are also home to two important soccer teams, Estudiantes de La Plata and Gimnasia y Grima de La Plata, or the other way around, Gimnasia and Estudiante, that depends on you. And we have this beautiful stadium, which is one of the most modern stadiums in Latin America. It is used not only for sports events, but also for concerts and things like that. And it was open to the public in 2003. Well, in this beautiful city you can find both history and tradition, along with a unique European style. Therefore, this city stands nowadays as an example of a well-planned metropolis. Not only by its geometrical design, which is really different from other cities, but also by its magnificent buildings and many green areas. You see, those buildings look really European, right? Talking about green areas, as you well know, we have a small park or a square every 6 blocks, right? This square acts as a green line or a recreation place. So we have lakes, a great variety of trees, playground for kids, open spaces for people to have their picnics, and of course open spaces and spaces for people to do exercises, right? Run, jog, and everything. These squares and parks are clean and they're kept clean, and that is the idea, right? By doing that, we keep respecting the original idea, which was to have a clean city, a healthy city. Remember that? All right, now.
Centro Cultural Lardo Rocha was at the very beginning a train station called 19 de Noviembre, and it was inaugurated in 1887. Then, between 1926 and 1928, it was remodeled by Luis Monteverde, and in 1829 it adopted his name and it was called Pasaje Monteverde. Finally, in 1930, it took the name of Pasaje Dardo Rocha, and in 1944 it became a local heritage and the great cultural center that it is nowadays. So, today, the building takes up an entire block in Street 49 and 50, between Streets 6 and 7, in front of Plaza San Martin. It is open from Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and it is directed by the manager of Culture Office, Dr. Jose Cipollone. So, on the first floor, we may find the central hall, and in here we may also find a cafe, a restaurant, and all the most important expositions are performed here together with Macla and Montmartre. On the second and third floor, we may find Escuela Taller Municipal de Arte, Sala Inca, Sala de Convenciones, Sala de Conferencias, where most conferences of Manhattan Center are usually held. Regarding the style of the building, it was inspired in the 17th and 18th century French art, well known as French Baroque. And some of the most important qualities regarding this building is, for example, that it has two identical facades and two others that are completely different. Also, we may find symmetrical structures and expansive sides, which means that all the areas are wide open. We have many cultural proposals in here. And the year we start with the performance of the great dancer Iñaki Urlesaga, and there's going also to be a theater festival in which all the winning plays will take part of the stable programming of Pasaje Dardo Rocha. Also, music lovers will have the chance to enjoy tango, folklore, etc. And this musical cycle has already started this month, a month dedicated to the women and to the art. In fact, this weekend on Friday and Saturday, there's going to be a festival regarding folklore, so if you're interested, you can come and enjoy that also. But the main protagonists of Pasaje Dardo Rocha are the aforementioned Montmartre and Macla, and they will be presenting the work of great artists. Here we have some examples of this. We can see the big works of López Osorno César, Pasaje a Leticia, Álvarez Manuel, Borgia Gustavo, and many others. La Comuna Ediciones, which is the publishing house of Secretaría de Cultura, will prepare the local writers and will prepare also new generations of writers. Museo y Archivo Dardo Rocha will offer movie cycles, theater plays, book presentations, and many other options. But something new and really interesting this year is a new writing workshop coordinated by María Laura Fernández Berro in Almafuerte Museum, which will conclude the year by publishing a book with all the best works presented during the year. Another important fact that we can see here in Pasaje Dardo Rocha is a big painting called Día de Sol. It is in Sala Presidencia, and it was done by Benito Quintera Martín. His life is really interesting, so I would like to mention some important details. His date of birth could not be determined since he was abandoned when he was a baby. He was abandoned in a nursery home with a note that says, "This kid has been baptized and his name is Benito Martin." Then, when he was 7 years old, he was adopted by Manuela and Justina Quinquela. And then he started to realize that he really liked drawing and painting, so he started to attend a nice school about drawing. By 1910, he has already started to small exhibitions, and from that moment on, his career never stopped growing, and he became the great artist that we know today. He died in Buenos Aires from a heart disease, and he was buried in La Chacarita in a coffin painted by himself several years before he died. And he was also buried with a legend that says, "He who lives surrounded by colors cannot be buried in a flat box." So that is why he painted his own coffin. Good. We have many important paintings to know. So here we have some examples of his best works. We can mention, for example, Después de la lluvia, Crepúsculo en el astillero, Puente de la Boca, and there are many other important paintings, okay? But these are just a few examples. So, to conclude this conference, I would like to explain a little bit why we've decided to give the name of La Plata a thriving capital. We believe that La Plata is such an important place because, first of all, it is the capital of the most important province in Argentina, and it is also the 5th most populated city in the country. Also, as my partner already said, La Plata is a place with both history and traditions, and we have many important buildings and historical sites. For example, we can mention the Metropolitan Cathedral and the Natural Science Museum, which he already spoke. Another reason why La Plata is so important is because it is in constant growing. It is growing regarding the buildings, the maintenance. And one example of this is the construction of Estadio Único de La Plata, which was inaugurated a few years ago. Also, it is important because we have many options regarding culture. If you like music, you may find an option. If you like writing, you may also find an option. But I believe that the most important reason is because we have free quality education through the University of La Plata. Many people can study and become a professional, not only the people from here, from La Plata, but also people from other places of the country, as myself, and people from other places in the world. So all this, all the maintenance, the growing, could be done thanks to the help and to the support of our authorities. For example, our Mayor Pablo Bruera, who was already here, and Dr. José Stipolori, who was already here at the very beginning.